Good day everyone, early from RFI Reviews here. Here's my full review for the BLON BL07, the newest BLON IEM. But before we proceed, I would like to thank Keep Hi-Fi for sending over this review unit to me in exchange for an honest review. Kudos to them really. You should check out their website. They offer international free shipping on their products. Moving on to the packaging and accessories, here's the box. Inside this box, with its minimalist packaging, you'll get the two pairs of your usual blonde elongated ear tips, the rounded ear tips, your usual blonde pouch or sack, some user manual, and the cable and the drivers itself. I'm happy to tell you guys that this isn't the proprietary connector anymore compared to the previous siblings of BLON. It is now NX7 or TFZ connector compatible, which is mostly found in TFZ and nice HDK IEMs. I will be showing a picture here for reference. Moving on to the fit and isolation. So the fit and isolation in my experience is very good. It sits flush, but do take note that my ears are on the bigger side. So the fit may differ or vary depending on your ear and ear canal size. Its shell is slightly heavy when lifted, quite hefty, but it is very comfortable when fitted in the ears because as I've said before, it is flush in my ears, unlike the BL03 that needs some tweaking in order to get a good fit. Overall fit and presentation is good for its asking price. I also do like this purple colorway as well. It is glossy and it is kind of giving that cosmic vibes to it. Now let us move on to the sound. So if you're familiar with BLON, the DBL07 still has that BLON sound signature, which is that warm bass, warm soft bass. But this time, the upper frequencies are a bit different, and I must say I enjoyed the experience on this. The BLON BL07 still has that BLON house sound to it. It's U-shaped, leaning to the warmer side of sound most of the time, but can be W-shaped surprisingly on some sources, as its vocals and instruments can sound a little bit forward or linear than usual on some setups I've tried, particularly on neutral sources. Moving on to the lows are elevated and soft. Sub-bass has greater quantity than the mid-bass. The decay is slightly slower than usual, but it isn't as boomy when compared to the BL07 or the BL Max I have tested and reviewed on my page. The texture is medium to below average. Overall, the lows are present. It packs a good sub-bass rumble and can cater EDM and bass heavy tracks quite well. But I do like it more if it has that mid-bass punch. Moving on to the mids. Speaking of, the mids are mostly recessed, with rare instances of linearity on particular songs and sources. There's a presence of mid-bass bleed on lower mids, making the presentation of it a bit warm-bodied and can be sometimes blurry for male vocals and instruments. Upper mids are much elevated compared to the BLON BL Max, but not as elevated and aggressive compared to the BL05S. As a result, the upper mids have that superb clarity and sparkle to it, which sets it apart from the previous BLON IEMs I have tried and tested, with some occasional peaks on selected tracks, notably on Ariana Grande's tracks and K-pop tracks. But it isn't as aggressive when compared to the BL05s, as I have said. Overall, the mids on the BL07 are warm, it's nice, and maybe it has the best mids from a BLON IEM I have tried and tested. but I haven't tested the BLON A8 Prometheus yet, so it can be on par with that, or it can be just below that IEM. When compared to the competition, moving on to the highs are boosted. Yeah, it is boosted with a tinge of brightness. It is well extended and has good amount of air. Detail retrieval is just adequate to below average to my liking for its asking price, but it will be enough, or maybe more than enough, for most individuals who listen to their music casually. Despite the fact that it is raised, the presentation is smooth, and it has that proper amount of presence. It isn't too peaky, but yes, it can sometimes sound slightly peaky on some tracks. As for the soundstage is wide with average expansion. It is wider than deep. The separation is just average, with instances of congestion in busy tracks, particularly in J-pop and metal tracks. But it isn't worse, or it isn't that bad. Imaging is also average. It is accurate, but not that precise, and can present instrument and vocal positioning decently with the right amount of imagination in your head. So, should you buy this BLON BL07? Well, if you are coming from a BLON BL03 or an IEM that is too bright, or maybe you just want an all-rounder, comfortable fit with the BLON house sound, the BL07 can be one of your options, as it can cater most tracks you throw at it. Not to mention that it is very easy to be driven and can sound good with a smartphone. Yes, it is very easy to drive. But from an audiophile or an enthusiast perspective, this still needs some improvements or polishing, particularly on its detail retrieval capability and its technicalities. And maybe, just maybe, lessen that mid-bass bleed. But for me, based on my observations and findings, this is the best BLON IEM yet. Among all of those BLON IEMs I have tried and tested, and I have tested mostly BLON IEMs throughout my hobby. And that ends my review for the BLON BL07. Non-affiliated link and my social media pages will be in the description for you to check or not. If you don't mind, you can subscribe to this channel, like or dislike this video. It's up to you. Thank you for watching, and see you on the next video.